Hi, this is Farrell, and these are, I should say, pages 24 and 25 of Robot Todd issue 2. I just kind of jumped into the pencils this time because I'm doing this as a spread, and you look back on those thumbnails, you can see they're a little bit different or a lot different actually. I decided to do 2 panel pages and save like the next splash page for the very last page of the story. And I just started penciling it, and rather than record a bunch of stuff, me scribbling a couple of nights, I just went right into it. But pencils are getting pretty refined, getting close to inked here. I just wanted to run you through them. You could see that I saved the very last panel for last, before I drew anything. It's just like fox running, and I didn't record me drawing it just because and I saved it for the last just because I had to get reference for it. Rather than just kind of making up a fox running, I decided to look at something, which usually I do with the animals. Sometimes if it's like in the background a little or something, I just kind of make it up. But this time and usual times, I look up on just Google image search some random picture. It's probably not 100% legal to do just because there's probably someone that owns the rights to the original photograph, but hopefully I could change it enough to where no one really needs credit or anything. I'll stick to the story of just me saying like, oh, I took that picture, or I found a royalty-free one or something, which I probably shouldn't record a video of me saying that since, but I just kind of default to no one really cares about a comic and doing like a little, if I was making the main character anyway, that's neither here nor there. Here I am inking with a brush. I inked this whole page pretty much with a brush, and you can see like a close-up of the first panel on the right and then the inked panel on the left, or not 100% inked, but the foot. And I ended up kind of redrawing some stuff as I was inking as well, and you can see, I just kind of inked in the beak there, along with the talons and the foot, and then the bottom 2 panels on the right. And I even started inking the next spread on the right, the page on the right, the top right panel of Fern hanging out, just because when I ink or draw spreads, I usually kind of work the whole thing at once, where I'll jump around from panel to panel, and I'll keep kind of reminding myself, like, oh, go back to the first panel and finish that one before you start jumping onto the next ones. But it just gets kind of tedious sometimes, so then I'll just be like, oh, I feel like kind of inking this over there, and it just kind of makes it go by a little faster and makes it a little more fun for me. And here I am just kind of inking more stuff with this Raphaël 8404 brush. My cat interrupted me a lot on this page, and I actually finished these pages before this last weekend, and I think I'm posting this on Tuesday today, and I finished them on Thursday. So it was like pretty fast for me. I feel like I did it in less than a week. Did them in under a week, both pages. But I ended up, when I went on a trip last weekend to a show. Here I'm lettering with the Faber-Castell Pitt pen. And this is size F that I letter these with. And I'm using this piece of cardboard to kind of flatten it down. It's gotten pretty wet here in Portland. And since the weather changed, all my paper, even when I tape it down, starts to bubble and stuff. So I use something kind of hard, like a little more stiff, to flatten down the paper as I'm writing, and kind of keeps the pencils and stuff from smudging too much and making the page of a full graphite. Here's Pinkson again interrupting. But these are the sort of fully inked pages here. And so what I was saying before was that I finished it up, and then I was going to make the video, and then I looked at the last couple panels and realized that I didn't really do the pencil line borders, and I didn't add stars to the last 2 panels. I was thinking, like, when I was painting it, that I would add stars there. So I just this morning went ahead and finish the page up rather than make a video with it like partly done or almost done. I just went ahead and finished it up, and I ended up doing some stuff in Photoshop too, because I realized that I didn't make lines around the borders on the first page here, where I ended up erasing some of them. So rather than, I scanned in the second page, and I did the pencil lines to the borders in the second page, and scanned in the stars and scanned that in. And then when I was cleaning up the lettering, I realized that the first page was missing some of the border lines. So I just went ahead in Photoshop and used kind of like the pencil tool and the line tool to make borders. And I'm curious to see if anyone can tell the difference, like once it's in print, between the pencil and the. I'm guessing that they can't. I probably wouldn't be able to unless I was like looking for it. So here I have the first couple of panels watercolored, and I didn't really skip around in the watercolor too much. It looks like I did some ink washes on Sept there on the second page, and on Fern in the second panel. And you can see there's markers and stuff on the upper right corner, and I used those on some of the wires and little doohickeys coming out of Tod, just because sometimes changing cleaning my brush out and watercolor, it gets kind of tedious when I'm doing like a bunch of little different colors that I wanted to add. So usually when I'm watercoloring, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use a bunch of green and a bunch of yellow, and I'm just going to kind of focus on all the areas that have that in it, and rather than clean my brush out each panel or each time I want to do Robot Tod's head, this thing, and then I want to draw the fox running, and both of those are kind of yellowish, so that wouldn't have been a big deal. But maybe like the green of the sky, and so like I try to keep. With the watercolors, I try to keep it all, using them all like a color everywhere that color is going to be. I like to do it kind of like in one go. And then if I, need to go over it later with like darker values or whatever. But the markers and pens and stuff just kind of made it easier just to switch and to like, okay, I'm going to use a red marker and fill in all the little red things. And then I'm going to use a blue marker and fill up all the little areas I want blue. And there's no guide or anything to this. It's like, I'm just kind of going from memory and whatever my vibe is. So, and some of them I did use watercolor on, it's just not all, I just wanted to kind of get some of them out of the way with markers. So it looks here like the page is nearly there. I kind of waited for the last two panels to get the lighting right, because I wanted on the second page, the second panel, like Todd's kind of narrating this thing, and then the wizard's kind of like watching him and getting upset at his crows. But here you can see I started to add some night. I wanted the second panel, Fern, to kind of be like dusk, like she's kind of drying her clothes out with this flame. And then the last two panels, I thought those are going to be at night. And so I just looked, there's not really video of me doing the rendering on it, because I looked at some pictures of some nighttime scenes in the desert. And it seems that like there's the ground was pretty light, for like moonlight, if there's like a moon out. Ground was pretty light and the sky is really dark, but there was like this gradient kind of going towards the moon that it took me a little while to do, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, where I did like a mixture of ink and watercolor. And here's this, like, I wanted to get this texture on the ground here of the fox running, but I wanted it to be kind of like bright, except for his like shadow. And so I used kind of like a dry brush thing where I kind of had used an old crumbly brush and kind of just kept using it sort of like a dry brush on the ground to get that texture. And I think it came out pretty well. But yeah, here's like, okay, I'm finished with this, but in reality, it's like when I realized later, like, oh, I didn't do the stars. So you can see that right there, they're starless skies. Yeah, and I was just so out of it, getting ready for my trip and everything, that I was just like, yeah, it's done, good enough, cool. And I left a little lines around the borders. Here's the revised lettering page, after Photoshop, and those little lines there around the panel borders are all Photoshopped, and that one's not. Those are hand done with the pencil, and you can see the stars, and there's the finished spread right there. Hey, I have a Patreon. It's $2 a month, and you can read all these Robot Tod pages. Thanks for watching. Bye.